All right, if you're ready to move on, here's the next scenario. There are a bunch of people gathered around a table. Okay, if it's happening now, they're wearing masks and they're not sitting that close together. Okay, this table can be anywhere in time or place. Okay, it's a group that gathers around a table, this table, regularly. Okay, maybe it's in someone's home, maybe they live in the same home. Maybe it's a table out in the world. We don't know. This table can be anywhere. It's your table. Okay, who are the people? Where are they? What's on the table? What are they talking about? Again, any details that come to mind in this scenario, jot them down. This will be another possibility for you to choose from as we move to the next step. All right, pause the video. When you're ready, you can start it again. Next possible scenario, an exercise group. Where? What form of exercise? How often does the group gather? How many people? Any detail you can think about, um, jot it down. There's no right or wrong answer. Okay? Stop the video. When you're ready, restart it. Okay, and this is going to be your final possibility, a sales meeting. Okay, what's being sold? What's the nature of the company? How long have people been working with the company? What's the mix from veterans to rookies? Okay, what's the manager like? What's her style of leadership? Any details that come to mind, another possible scenario. Okay, pause the video, and when you're ready, start it back. Oh, it's a good one. Couple on a date. How long have they been together? How well is the relationship going? Okay. Maybe it's a new relationship. Maybe these are two people that have been together for years. It's completely up to you. What's happening on the date before things change? Okay. Before things become a little less normal in the day. All right, pause the video, jot down as many notes as you want, and restart when you're ready. Okay, so what you're going to do now is you're going to pick the scenario you find the most compelling and decide what happens that is unexpected. Okay, what moves us away from the normal day? What changes? It needs to be believable. It needs to keep us, it needs to be something that's not going to jar us from our credulity, right? It doesn't have to be anything too dramatic. We definitely don't want it to be melodramatic, okay? But there's something different this day, okay? And once you decide what changes, I want you to ask yourself which of these characters is most impacted by the change, because that's probably your protagonist, right? The person that's going to have the hardest time adapting to the change is probably going to be the main character of your story. It's going to be the character we see really tested. Okay, so the reader should empathize, experiencing the character's discomfort and perhaps producing sympathetic cortisol. If you can get readers to produce cortisol, then you've done it. You've done the magic. Okay, you've quite literally created tension at that point. All right, so think about what's going to test these characters, in particular your protagonist. What changes? Okay, there's this symbiotic relationship between character and conflict. Okay, conflict pushes the story. In a lot of ways, story is constructed through conflict. Okay, but your character becomes shaped by conflict. The conflict is shaped by character. Okay, and it's really just like real life. We don't really know who people are when things are going well. Everyone could be a really decent person when everything's going well. It's when we face hardship and things aren't so perfect where we start to see who people really are. Okay, it's the same way with your characters. Okay, so use this to your advantage. Okay, as soon as you start thinking about what the conflict is, that can shape who your character is, and who your character is can shape what conflict you throw towards the character. Okay, so brainstorm a little. Dozen or so possible details about your protagonist right now. Pause the video and jot down everything you can think of that you might be true of your protagonist. Okay, stop the video, start it again when you're ready to move on. Okay, you've got a clear idea now of who your protagonist is. So what I want you to do is back up now and start painting that normal day. Now that you have a clearer understanding, it's just a little more of an understanding. We're still drafting. We're not worried about perfection at all, right? We're just having fun. But now that you know a little bit about this character, paint that normal day a little bit. I want you to write from a close third person perspective. And we're going to talk about point of view in a few classes from now. So don't worry too much about this, but preferably what I would like is a close third person point of view. Okay, so we're not going to use first person narrator. You're not going to have one of the characters telling the story, but we get to be behind and inside one of the characters, your main character. Okay, so it reads something like this. Juanita had been looking forward to their monthly gathering for the past several days. She wondered whether Alice and Amy would show up or what have you. Okay, we get to know everything Juanita experiences and thinks, but that's it. Okay, we experience the story through our protagonist. Okay, have fun with it. If that confused you, that last part, don't worry about it. Okay, just move forward, painting everything you can about that normal day. Okay, pause the video and restart it when you're ready for the next step. Okay, so now we've got a little sketch of some sort of Act 1, the beginning of the story, and now we're going to move into Act 2. I want you to introduce the unexpected element that threatens our protagonist. Okay. Allow us to see the protagonist try to ignore the threat, only to see it grow. Okay. What often happens in this hero's journey that's at the heart of most of your favorite stories is the main character, when trouble arrives, the main character initially says, I'll just ignore it and maybe it'll go away. And of course, while the protagonist is ignoring the trouble, what happens? It grows. Okay. And along with the external trouble growing, so do the insecurities and vulnerabilities of our protagonist. Okay. Eventually the protagonist says, hey, I'm gonna take action. Okay, I'm gonna push back. I'm gonna try to address this issue at hand. And of course, we go, oh, finally, maybe things will get better, but they don't. We start to see this ebb and flow, right, of the tension. All right. So you're going to work on that. Okay, this is the bulk of the story is this Act 2. Okay, conflict being addressed. Maybe it'll get better. Oh, it didn't. Okay, and again, the more subtly you can introduce conflict and resolution, in a lot of ways, the better. Okay, we don't want to have a lot of external events occurring, right? It's these human dynamics where this stress is coming from. It comes from these vulnerabilities and insecurities. It does, you aim for a story that's really rooted in something we can believe and accept. Okay, and then whenever you're ready, you're going to get the protagonist out of the tree. Okay, maybe the protagonist overcomes the external situation, the external conflict, right? That's up to you. As a rule of thumb, happy endings sell better than sad endings, but a lot of great pieces are written with the protagonist failing to overcome that external conflict. Okay, but in most stories, the protagonist is successful, right? In most stories, we have that darkest hour where the storyteller has convinced us there's no way the protagonist is going to get out of this, and yet somehow the protagonist prevails one way or the other. Now, whether or not the protagonist is successful confronting the external conflict, one thing that has to happen is the protagonist confronts those internal vulnerabilities. We see some growth, okay? Even if it's a piece where there's a sadder ending and it's right before the protagonist dies, the protagonist has grown through this journey, okay, through this contest against conflict. Okay. The protagonist must make significant progress and evidence substantial growth in the internal areas that created the biggest challenge in confronting the conflict. Story is really about character confronting self, and in a lot of your favorite stories, you related to that character, and it was about perhaps you confronting something within yourself, right? And story allowed you to do that in a very safe way. Okay, so have fun with this. Okay, you're going to work on this all week. And then next week we will get into your textbook and really look at the different components one by one in fiction writing, and do exercises that will give you other options to choose from when down the road you decide which story you're really going to work on to polish and share with us for your the fiction component of your grade, right? But all along the way, remember, you're fighting against perfectionism. You're moving forward. You're creating. Okay, to be creative means to make something, right? And if you sit around stressing about being perfect, you're not going to be creative. So give yourself permission to have fun with this. Use this structure, right, to guide you, and understand how powerful it is to move you forward to tell a story that's completely original and yours. Okay, but use the structure, have fun with it. I will get the uh, the prompt up in the discussion forum, but right now you just work on having fun drafting your first story for the class. Okay, look forward to seeing what you come up with. If you have any questions, just shoot me an email. Okay, everybody take care.